Besides substituting agave nectar for sugar in recipes, you can use a whole grain flour in place of a white flour. And when making refined white flour, the grains are milled to remove up to 80% of that grain's nutrients, and much of the flavor is lost in the process. Whole grain flours have more vitamins, minerals, fiber, and flavors. Look for organically grown for the best flavor. Whole grain flour must be refrigerated in moisture-tight containers, and you want to use them within 2 to 4 months of purchase. There's many different choices that you can experiment with. Favorites include whole wheat flour, quinoa, brown rice flour, oat flour, kamut, spelt, amaranth, barley, millet, potato, teff, corn, and more. Look for sprouted grain and sprouted grain flours. As always, look for organic. Grains are seeds. So sprouting means that the grain has been changed from a seed into a living plant. This happens by allowing the grain to soak in brine long enough to wake it from dormancy. This sets forth a process of germination and emotion. And when a grain changes from a seed into a living plant, everything changes. Its nutritional qualities, as well as our body's ability to digest it and absorb nutrients, change. The stored up nutrients held in the seed burst forth and give life to the sprout. This sprouted grain contains many active enzymes that aid in digestion. There's extra vitamin C produced through sprouting as well. Other higher vitamin levels include B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, E, K, phytocarotene as well. Phytic acid is neutralized in sprouted grains and allows for easier absorption of calcium, magnesium, iron, copper, and zinc. Grains contain lignans that contain powerful agents that assist in cancer and heart disease prevention and help maintain bone strength. It's better to choose good carbs than no carbs, and whole grains are your best bet. They provide energy and are important for a healthy diet. Refined grains on their own or in flour, pasta, or bread are digested quickly and impact our blood sugar levels. Also, when buying bread, avoid hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils or high fructose corn syrup. As always, with any processed food, be cautious with any items that have ingredients that you can't pronounce or contain ingredients that you have no idea what they are. Unfortunately, multi-grain products often have bleached flour blended in with them in manufacturing. If multi-grain isn't the first ingredient, then white flour is most likely the first ingredient. Also, watch for flour blend. If a company produces real multi-grain bread, it will list the actual grains that make up the blend. If not, the blend could contain mostly white flour. Also look for white starch on the label. For example, it may be potato starch listed after the multigrains. Keeping in line with the grains, I'd like to show you some healthy options to foods that you probably already eat. Breakfast really is the most important meal of the day. Studies show that people who eat breakfast have better concentration, are more easily able to control their weight, and they perform better in athletic competitions. A lot of adults and children like to eat cereal. You want to look for a cereal that's made with whole grains and it's high in fiber. The recommended intake of fiber per day is about 25 grams. The average Canadian consumes about 14 grams per day. Women who consume more fiber were half as likely to be obese, and obesity is a risk factor for cancer. So look for a cereal that has at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. One thing to be careful of is the sugar content. Ideally 5 grams of sugar or less. You may notice that after you eat a very sugary processed cereal, you get hungry again rather quickly, or your energy levels seems like they're great, but then they dramatically plummet. You can decrease this by decreasing the amount of sugar in your cereal. If you buy a cereal that doesn't taste quite as sweet as you had hoped, you can sweeten it up a little bit with a little bit of fruit, a drizzle of maple syrup, or a little bit of agave nectar. Also watch for portion sizes. Many people can easily eat 2 or 3 servings at a sitting before getting full, which is more than you would plan to eat. So consider pre-measuring your cereals so that you don't overeat. A key point in healthy eating is to eat slowly and chew your food fully. This can be a problem for breakfast when everyone's in a hurry, so you may tend to overeat by not giving your stomach enough time to tell your brain that you're full. Fiber comes in two forms, soluble and insoluble. Soluble lowers cholesterol and controls blood sugar levels. Examples are oatmeal, oat bran, dried beans, peas, and lentils, and pectin-rich foods like apples, strawberries, and citrus fruits. Insoluble is roughage and it's bulky. It helps you feel full and promotes regularity. Examples are wheat bran, whole grain foods, and the skins, leaves, and seeds of fruits and vegetables. Look for 100% whole grain or 100% whole wheat with wheat germ listed as the beginning ingredient. There's lots of ways to increase fiber in your diet. Adding one more vegetable per day, eat a piece of fruit, add beans and lentils to salad, spaghetti sauce, or soups. Choose bread or pasta that's high in fiber. Add a quarter cup of wheat bran or oat bran or flax to baking. Use hummus or other bean dips for spreads on sandwiches instead of mayo. An unhealthy component to cereals, especially high fiber cereal, is high fructose corn syrup. It's added to the fiber cereals because people really don't like the taste of fiber. It's also listed as HFCS or corn sugar. A great alternative to refined processed sweeteners are natural sweeteners. They have a lot of flavor and they undergo minimal processing techniques. The sweetness is quite concentrated, so a little goes a long way, so keep in mind these are sugars and you should only consume them in moderation. For example, raw honey, regular honey, maple syrup, they all enter the bloodstream fairly quickly, so they're good for a quick boost of energy. Whereas barley malt, brown rice syrup, and my favorite, agave nectar, enter this bloodstream at a slower rate with less of a spike of insulin, and they're good for people that are trying to avoid sugar. They're great in cooking and baking, and I like to use, for example, the agave nectar in coffee and tea. Snack foods. This is where most healthy eating falls apart. Everyone likes a chip or a cracker, or some type of snack food occasionally. These types of food should be eaten only occasionally and in moderation, if at all. Look for snacks that are free of artificial colors and flavors, artificial sweeteners, and hydrogenated oils, which are trans fats, which is also true about all foods that you should be looking for. Be careful of products that appear to be health food store oriented. Take, for instance, vitamin water. It's not that much different than a soda or a regular pop. It's mainly sugary water. Often we find high fructose corn syrup or aspartame in these drinks. Most vitamin drinks are not actually healthy at all. Another example is potato chips. They're still fried, although probably in a healthier oil. So rice chips and quinoa chips might be a healthier choice. And potatoes, if you recall, are always on the buy organic list. So it's better to buy an organic chip than a non-organic chip because the pesticides that will be found in conventionally grown potato chips. Studies are also linking all fried foods to long-term health risks, and foods like this are still high in fat and calories, and they do not support our bodies being healthy. Some baked chips are available instead of fried. Compare labels. You may find significantly less fat but much more sugar and the same amount of salt as the fried chips.